I'm Katie from What Katie Did, and welcome back. Today I'm not going to talk about what Katie did at all, but I'm going to talk to you about some of my vintage finds and my vintage haul that I got from the Retrofest, which took place at Newbury last weekend. Now, the Retrofest is a festival that takes place twice a year, and as from its name, you can tell it's to do with all things retro. It mainly focuses on the 50s and 60s, that they have bands playing and dance lessons and an awesome trading area. And it was the trading area I was most interested in visiting. Retrofest takes place in Newark in Nottinghamshire in June, and then it comes down to Newbury at the beginning of August. And Newbury's only just up the road from me and my family, so we generally make a day trip to go up there, and we catch up with friends we haven't seen for a while, and it's nice to catch up with traders there and see what's going on, because normally when you're working at events, you're concentrating on selling and working, and you don't have time to chat. So it's nice to have a chat in a non-pressured environment. At Retrofest, I always tend to find some really good things, and I've picked up some amazing lingerie and hosiery over the years, but this time it was really a damp squib for hosiery and lingerie. I didn't find anything at all, but I did find some amazing other things. The first thing I discovered was this brand called Love Your Look, and I'm sorry if you already know about it. They have been going for about 6 years, but it's the first time I stumbled upon them, and they really do some amazing designs. The dress I'm wearing is one of theirs, and I was talking to their owner, Ronke, and immediately when I spoke to her, I've been in the business 20 years now, and normally when I speak to new brands and that, I don't want to sound condescending, but when I spoke to Ronke, she was like, wow, she knows a lot more about the industry than I do, and I can learn a lot from this woman. And it turns out that I've done a bit of research, and on our website, yes, she does have a lot of experience in the fashion industry. And I was speaking to her about the prints, because she does have some amazing prints, and they are the most authentic vintage prints that I've seen for a long, long time. And I was talking to her about the prints, and she said she makes in England and India, and obviously this resonates with me because we make the majority of our garments in India and England, and we also print our fabrics for our map lingerie in India, and traumatic is a bit too much, but it was a bit of a drama getting that done. And she said that she gets her fabric printed in India, and it's to her own designs, and it's not digitally printed. She said straight off that digital printing was too expensive, and it had to be, the old-fashioned printing methods. And what I was so jealous about is that she did say that she has to make 700 meters at a time of her prints, which is great for if you're doing dresses. For example, if a dress like this, it's going to take at least 2 meters of fabric to make. So if you have 700 meters made, that basically means 300 to 350 dresses, and she explained that if she did it over a variety of styles, then that was totally doable. And to compare with us, if we get 100 meters of a fabric digitally printed, then that lasts us, we can do a lot more than 350 items with that. So I'm so jealous of people making dresses, because they can do so much with the fabrics. And if I come back in my next life, it's like I keep saying, I'm going to do dresses, I'm not going to do lingerie, and anything else than lingerie would be so much easier, because when it comes to lingerie or dressing vintage, I see that lingerie really is the icing on the cake, and you can I mean, it's nice to have seam stockings and everything, but really you can get away without the lingerie, although I shouldn't really be saying that. And it's funny because when I speak to Lindsay, who runs Miss Elfire, the shoe company, now I would have thought that selling shoes was easy, because they only have a few sizes, and I was talking to her a couple of years ago, and she was saying, oh, in my next life I'm going to come back doing jewellery, because jewellery you can put in really tiny boxes, and with the shoe boxes you have all these huge boxes and they take up so much space. So it's a case of the grass is always greener But really, also, I need to ask Eva, who does Splendette, and see what she says about jewellery, because I'm sure she's got another horror story, and she thinks, oh, next in my next life I'll be doing stockings. But as I said earlier, it's the case of the grass is always greener, and it's just we're all looking for the perfect thing, which is easy to make, easy to sell, and makes loads of money. So maybe a business advisor would be the best way to go. So back to Love Your Look. I bought this dress. She had some amazing Mexican prints, but I bought this dress because it's heading into autumn or fall in the UK, and I thought I'd get a lot more wear out of it in autumn. And also, it really does remind me of a dress I had probably 20 years ago now, which again had a grey background, and my dress had pink roses, and this is red, but it is totally, this looks, to me, it looks just like vintage. So this is why I got that dress, but I could have bought 3 or 4 dresses from her. I had to restrain myself. So secondly, moving on from my haul, this is my Love Your Look bag. And just to put it out there, I do actually pay for everything. When I do the videos, since I've been doing the videos in the last year, seriously, I have actually been buying more dresses, which I know is not good for the environment, but I think it's a good way of supporting other independent brands and also letting you guys know about them. Also, I have been wearing vintage since I was 16, so I've basically got 30 years of clothing in my attic at home. So I've also had a lot of fun over the last couple of years putting together new outfits from dresses and clothes I haven't worn for a long time. So it's not that a case that I have, I go out and buy a ton of dresses. It's a mixture of outfits I've had for many years, and the fact that yes, I am buying 1 or possibly 2 dresses a month simply to film in, to make it look fresh for you. But if I wasn't filming, then I'd be buying far less than I actually do. So Love Your Look, they are actually having a pop-up shop in London in the end of September. So if you keep an eye on their website, you'll be able to, if you are in London, obviously you can go and check them out and see all their garments in real life. And also at their pop-up shop is a lady who does, it says retro accessories and homeware, but she focuses on hair flowers. And I know hair flowers, everyone does hair flowers, but her hair flowers really were special. And I didn't buy anything for her simply because I've already got so many hair flowers, and I was a little bit overwhelmed. I was like, I need to think about what I've already got, what I wear, and I need to have a look at her website, because they were really nice, and they were very affordable too. But I know her name is Guns and Posies, and she is also taking part in the pop-up shop in London with Love Your Look, so you'll be able to catch both of them together. But she's definitely one that I will be checking out in future. Then I found, this is one of my favourite finds. I know I said this dress was my favourite find, but this is a favourite find as well. And at Retrofest, you do tend to get a few stalls who aren't professional traders. It's like they collect things throughout the year and just have a stand at Retrofest. And this was one of them. And they had lots of sewing pieces on their stands. And this is Lucky Speed Needlebook, which, as you know, I've said in my videos before that we are genuinely into vintage cars and motor racing. And this features a vintage car, motor racing, and inside it is actually a sewing kit, which is amazing. So that'll be, I'm probably going to put this on our stand at Goodwood, some kind of display, and it's one of those things that people won't necessarily know what it is, but it's a really cute piece of history. So I was really thrilled when I found this. Another thing I found, which I didn't buy, was there's a place called the Button Box in Devon, which I've heard about, and they actually had a stand at Retrofest, and they do all kinds of vintage buttons and trims, which, as you can imagine, is quite a pull for me. And what she actually had, after I found these at where was this? I found this at Brooklyn's Retrofest, Brooklyn's Vintage Festival a few months ago, and I'd never seen these darning eggs before. And Kathy from the Button Box actually had a box of these, and I'm telling you this because she was actually selling them separately for £5 each, and I'm too selfish. I'm not going to sell these. As I said earlier, we do actually have one in our LA shop, which I'm waiting for them to try to see how well they get on with it, and I'm going to put one in our London shop, but the rest I'm going to keep for display at our events to make our stand look more interesting. But she was selling them for £5 each on her Etsy stands, on her Etsy shop, and I don't know whether she's going to have any left, but I will put a link. I can't put a link to everything on Facebook and Instagram, but I can on YouTube. So if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll put all the links below so you know where you can find these. And finally, at places like Retrofest, there's always one stand that stands out from the rest. You always get one random stand. And I can remember when we were doing erotica years and years ago, it was always the Australian hat stands, and we always joke when we're at shows saying, okay, so where's the Australian hat stand? So this time around, there wasn't an Australian hat stand. The stand that stood out from the rest was the Green Eco Shop, which was totally out of sync with everyone else because everyone else was vintage and retro, but it was a really good find for me because I already buy some of their products, or some of the products they sell, and I picked up, what did I pick up? Replacement dental floss. This is, what can you get excited about with dental floss? Well, this is by Geo Organics, and they use Peace Silk, which is cruelty-free silk, and you get a tiny little thing of dental floss. This is actually a refill. So this is what you get, and when you buy the original dental floss, you get it in a glass canister. So the glass canister is really tiny and it's recyclable and everything, and then you just buy the refills. And I know that's a tiny little thing, but it actually looks really pretty on your bathroom shelf as well. So when you think about dental floss in a normal plastic container, it's not the most aesthetically pleasing item in the world, whereas this looks really, really nice. And I also got a miniature Geo Organics toothpaste for travelling. I do use their big tubs, but they are quite heavy to take in my suitcase, and I didn't realise they made little ones, so this will be perfect. And finally, again for travelling, I got reusable cutlery, which I have bought before, and this is one of the challenges I find with being using green items is that you really have to use them for a long time to make it actually worthwhile, not using the plastic throwaway ones and using reusable ones. And I did buy a metal set at the end of last year, which I lost, and I replaced it with this at the weekend. Of course, as soon as I got home, I found the metal set, so now I've got two sets, so really there's no excuse. But I can look very worthy on a plane with my bamboo set because it does look more environmentally friendly than the plastic set. The next reports you'll get from me on the road will be when we have been showing at Twinwood and possibly Goodwood. But as I said earlier, it is great to actually go as a consumer, as a visitor, to check out the stands at my leisure and at our leisure, and see what's new and have a chat with people and just network, really. If you have found anything amazing at a vintage event, please let me know. I'd love to see your finds. And in the meantime, take care, and I'll catch up with you soon.